This time, the answer won't just surprise you. It also kind of surprised me. What's up, guys? I'm Hunter here, and here we are to do a breakdown / discussion on who in the JJK verse specifically. And I'm saying specifically the JJK verse. You can somewhat apply a cross verse depending on how you interpret some stuff, but I say mainly the JJK verse specifically. Who can resist the soul split katana? The blade that cleaves at the very soul of an individual, whether they actually be an animate object or an inanimate object. We have so much to talk about and so little time, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Heading me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, let's just review. Let's just go back in time. Let's talk about this statement. The blade that my left was a replica of the cursed tool, Split Soul Katana. I said it wrong. It's Split Soul Katana, not Soul Split Katana. Gosh darn it. Split Soul Katana. It can bypass the toughness of many substances to cut the soul. However, exerting that power fully requires eyes that can observe even the souls of inorganic objects. So, when this was first introduced back in chapter 198, I raised an eyebrow, mainly because of how it was described. It can bypass the toughness of many substances to cut the soul. So immediately, my brain went, it didn't say all. Of course, this is a narrator statement, so it kind of transcends Maki's perception or Toji's perception or Mai's perception. Anyway, it does leave them, essentially. This isn't something bound to them. But the fact that the narrator said many substances, at least in my brain, at the time of 198, put it into my head that someone or something would be able to resist Soul Split Katana. Or Split Soul Katana. I'm gonna mess it up. But heck, I'm probably gonna even tell the video wrong. So I think Soul Split Katana sounds better than Split Soul Katana. But with it being the case, the question lingered. Many substances. What could that mean? Inorganic matter. Having to perceive the souls of organic or inorganic. What does that mean? What are the answers? What are the questions? But, naturally, if you're like me, you're going to wonder. Okay, Soul Split Katana, very nice buff for Toji and Maki. It sort of makes up for what could be argued as their lacking AP due to not having any curse techniques of their own and not being able to enhance themselves with curse energies, just having to go with their base physicals. But, naturally, the question was, okay, so who's going to resist it? And how could one resist it? Hypothetically, in a cross-verse scenario, one could possibly resist Soul Split Katana if they can directly buff the durability of their soul. Now, that sounds like absolute nonsense, and I know people are going to be like, what do you even mean by that, Pencil? And I don't fully understand myself, but there are other series that have, like real soul manipulation. Like, sometimes the entire manga is built around soul manipulation or some variation of it. I'm looking at you, Soul Eater. But, like, legitimately, there are a bunch of manga out there in cross-verse scenarios where characters most likely would be able to resist Soul Split Katana because, sure, in JJK, characters may struggle to reinforce or buff their soul. So, obviously, Soul Split being able to cut through their toughness would be basically Durag at every single level. But there are a couple series like Seven Deadly Sins or Soul Eater, or even, like, that's a spoiler, though. I won't say it, but there's another series that has, like, direct soul interaction where, well, actually, Bleach is another good idea of, like, soul potency, where ultimately, Soul Split Katana sounds nice, but that's basically your average Zanpakuto. Zanpakuto is attack the soul, too, so it's not too useful cross-verse. But inverse is the real question. Like I mentioned, this was 198, I was thinking, who could I potentially resist it? And my brain immediately went to people who are known to have exceptionally strong souls. Now, admittedly, in the JJK manga, soul strength is something that's kind of, I'm not going to say irrelevant, but it's not necessarily something that comes up all too often. Like, you don't really hear characters mention the crazy top level line soul. Oh my, their soul, it's just so powerful, it's so jacked, it's so juicy, it's crazy. With one exception. And shockingly enough, it was not Satoru Gojo, of course. It was actually Ryomen Sukuna. If you'll remember, the reason that Yuji Todori was for so long immune to Outer Transfiguration from Mahito was very specifically because Sukuna's soul was inside him. And Sukuna's soul was just so swole, even at, like, when did he first encounter Mahito? Was that at 1/3? Or, like, 3/20ths of what Sukuna's full power was meant to be? With, like, maybe a 3-finger Sukuna inside him, he was able to just hard turn off everything Mahito did to him, despite it being Mahito's innate technique. So if there's anybody in JJK who would have a soul strong enough to resist Soul Split Katana, it had to be Sukuna, right? Like I said, no one else is really mentioned to have a swole soul. Like, Kenny's not mentioned to have one despite having lived many, many lives. Tenya isn't mentioned to have one despite being an evolved creature. Yuji, no characters really explained to have that thick, juicy soul. Even Mahito seems like he'd be an SSK victim, considering all you need to do to damage Mahito is to be able to perceive and then by proxy attack the soul. Subconsciously or consciously. So Soul Split Katana, which requires at least conscious acknowledgement of the souls of even things that are inorganic, yeah, Mahito would, ironically enough, probably just be able to be damaged by Toji and Maki's regular punches, not to talk of Soul Split. But Sukuna, I thought he was going to be the exception. Until chapter 252 came along and it was like, that boy ain't special. And honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this kind of makes the answer to the question proposed in this video, Nobody's able to resist Soul Split Katana as long as you're able to land the hit. When I say resist, I mean like innately. There are definitely counters to Soul Split Katana. When I do a full comprehensive breakdown on SSK, I'm definitely going to talk more about like how you can hard counter it in verse and possibly outside of verse, and which characters could have hard counters to it. We see it in this battle in particular. We know that ultimately the way that Sukuna starts to work around it is by using dismantles and coating his body in little cleaves in order to just knock it away. A very similar property to what he does with Yuta's own blade, which implies that Soul Split Katana does have a limit to what it cuts. That may be one of the many substances criteria, because despite dismantles being seemingly tangible slashes that one can knock away or interact with, they aren't simply just waves of energy. It seems like SSK cannot bypass them, considering Maki cannot, despite her ability to perceive them, tear through them. But in terms of like innate soul durability, the guy with the strongest soul by a long shot, unless the merger comes out and has super crazy Giga Soul, he can't resist SSK. To the point where he genuinely doesn't even want to interact with it. After he gets his heart pierced, bro's like, huh? What in the world? They plan to use the barrier rupturing to distract me. When I was certain of victory, so the one with heavenly restriction could strike. It must be possible to pass through an ordinary barrier if you have no curse energy. You must have planted the tool ahead of time. This wound is healing slower than the others. When someone who can observe the soul wields Split Soul Katana. I hate that it's called Split Soul Katana. I feel like it should be called Soul Split Katana. Why is it called Split Soul Katana? That's so weird. I'm gonna call it, I'll title it properly. But I hate that. I feel like I've been calling it Soul Split for so long. But Split Soul Katana, reverse curse technique, doesn't usually heal the wound. Repairing the soul's shape requires comprehending of the soul's contours. Two souls inhabit Sukuna's body, so he was aware of the contours of his own soul, much like with Yuji Todori. But he couldn't perfectly adapt to a reverse curse technique functioning differently than usual while suffering the after effects of his fight with Satoru Gojo. So, you can interact with SSK in unique ways, such as Sukuna's dismantle / cleave strat. If there are many cleaves or many dismantles, you can avoid SSK entirely, just not get hit by it. You can also heal it as long as you are, presumably enough, maybe this is special for Yuji and Sukuna, but as long as you are a dual-souled entity, or at least have experience being a dual-souled or multi-souled entity, because that requires the contours of the soul being known to oneself, even if subconsciously. But I'm telling y'all, if Big Kuna can't resist it, while on guard, to the point where he's like, I want to deal with it, and he proceeds to use the mini dismantles and the mini cleaves the entire time to avoid ever actually interacting with it, and every single time he's caught even slightly off guard, the man loses limbs or organs of extreme value. I think at least, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, at least within the context of its own verse, if someone gets hit by Split Soul Katana, they're done. Well, not done, because obviously Sukuna's not done. But they aren't resisting it. It's just not something you can do in verse. This means every character who has a lesser soul durability than Sukuna is an SSK victim, if Maki or Toji can land the hit with it. So obviously a character like Gojo could not care less about SSK and its abilities, because like, no duh. Bro has the infinity. He has no reason to worry about that. But with every other character, from Ryu to Yuta to Rika to who are other bulky characters, to Akari, to Kashima, like every other character would likely be an SSK victim. Rika's the weird one, I'll readily admit, once again, when I go over Soul Split and its possible exceptions, or the way you can deny it, or work around it. Maybe you can argue Rika's an exception, because her whole, like, biological state is weird, if you can even call, like, what she is a biological state. But, like, outside of that, everyone else gets chopped up easily. And notably, I would maybe chalk this up to Sukuna not being able to reinforce his soul enough, because he is caught off guard both times he gets hit by SSK, and SSK does actual real damage to him. But considering he doesn't allow himself to get hit by it again, he's always very consistently keeping an eye on Maki and making sure Maki can't just appear from the Shadow Realm to take her out, or take him out with one of his slashes, or one of her slashes. Yeah, I'd say it's kind of just raps for anybody else who gets hit by it. Even characters as bulky as Miguel would also kind of just get wiped by SSK, because its durability negation is just that good in universe. Of course, that takes me back to the original point I was talking about. I wonder what substances other than dismantles. Like, does Rika count as one of those substances? What are the exceptions? Because I feel like the narrator being particular about many substances seems like there's something in universe that could hard resist it. I guess dismantle juice is substance, but I don't know. It feels so like nebulous and unexplained that I don't want to just say the energy that Sukuna puts into dismantles and forms dismantles, that's what's immune to it. That's the substance. But that feels weird. It do feel weird. But still, that's really, really good. Toji and Maki essentially do have a solid win con against anyone who will interact with the blade, because no one in the verse can just defend it themselves. If they raise up a guard, whoosh, slice right through. If they try to punch it, slice right through. If they try to kick it, slice right through. It's being able to slice right through your opponents with nowhere their durability is real, real clean. However, that's what I think. This is what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think that there is someone in the verse who can hard resist SSK just through sheer soul durability alone? Do you think it's Rika? If you do, like, don't mind, like, explain it to me. I don't know. I feel like I kind of still don't get it, because I think Rika would still technically have a soul, as she is an object. Like, not necessarily a organic object, but even inorganic matter seems to have souls in the universe. And while Rika Orimoto's soul has left, I think she technically counts as a creature and has a durability and has a soul, because even rocks have souls. I'd say Rika's more sentient and, like, soulful than a rock. But other than that, please let me know in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave Katana Split Soul. Like, Katana Split Soul. Because I don't know, I still don't like the way that's ordered. Why is it Split Soul Katana, not Soul Split Katana? There's another name I called it. Soul Liberation Blade. I don't even know where I got that from. I think it's from TCBs. But regardless, leave Katana Soul Split in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks will include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, ad free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 Patreon, $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi and description down below where you can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Recliner Plays, Greyhound, Kids Void, Astro, Eternal Flame, King Sukuna, NMA, Real Rare, Paris Arnold, G Prosper, and Red Wolf 4765. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Steron, Sean, Sammy, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, and A+A. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 patrons: Autumn Mornings Lazo and Fine. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha and Jay Warrior. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $10 patrons: Panda Goat, Metal Solid Crisis, Joaquin Munoz, and Joaquin Munoz, along with Idemokami. And I'd like to give a final gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.